Once upon a time, there was a small mouse named Mike who lived in a cozy burrow in the woods. He had always been content with his simple life, spending his days playing with his friends and not worrying about the future. But as the leaves began to fall and the days grew shorter, Mike knew that winter was coming. Mike had heard stories from the older mice about how harsh the winters could be in the woods. They told tales of deep snow and freezing temperatures that made it nearly impossible to find food or shelter. But Mike didn't pay attention to those stories. He thought it was better to enjoy the present and not to worry about the future. As the first snowflakes began to fall, Mike quickly realized that he had made a grave mistake. His burrow was small, and he had no food stored for the winter. He set out to gather food, but the snow was too deep, and he couldn't find anything. He was getting colder and hungrier by the day. Mike knew that he needed to find a warm place to stay, but all he could find were small caves or abandoned bird nests, none of which would protect him from the harsh elements. He was desperate, and he didn't know what to do. One day, while wandering through the forest, Mike stumbled upon a clever and resourceful squirrel named Hook. Hook noticed that Mike was cold and hungry and took pity on the small mouse. Hook, who was an expert in survival in the winter, offered to teach Mike how to find food and keep warm. Mike was initially skeptical, but he was desperate and willing to try anything. Hook led Mike deep into the forest, where he showed him how to identify the signs of animals that have stored food for the winter. Hook taught Mike how to find nuts and seeds that are buried under the snow, and how to identify which plants are edible even in the cold season. The two of them spent hours every day foraging for food, and Mike was amazed at how much he was able to find with Hook's guidance. They found acorns, berries, and even some roots that were still edible under the snow. Mike's burrow was soon filled with enough food to last the winter. Hook also taught Mike how to make a warm nest out of moss and leaves. He showed him how to layer the moss and leaves to create insulation, and how to use the sun to keep warm. Mike was impressed by Hook's knowledge and skills, and he was grateful to have a friend who was able to teach him how to survive the winter. As the winter progressed, Mike and Hook continued to spend time together, learning new survival techniques and sharing their knowledge. Mike was amazed at how much he had learned from Hook, and he was grateful to have a friend who was able to teach him how to survive the winter. He realized that by working together and sharing their knowledge, they were able to make it. Thanks to Hook's knowledge and skills, Mike was able to survive the harsh winter with ease. He was grateful for Hook's kindness and wisdom. As the winter came to an end, Mike realized that he should have prepared for the bad times, just like Hook had done. He promised to never make the same mistake again, and he set out to gather food and prepare a shelter for the next winter, but this time with the help of his friend Hook and his new acquired skills. The moral of Mike's story is that it is always better to be prepared for bad times, even if it means seeking help and learning new skills. Because, in the end, being prepared and having the right knowledge, help, and skills can mean the difference between survival and failure. From that day forward, Mike always prepared for the bad times, and he lived a long and prosperous life, and he always remembered the wise and resourceful Hook who helped him in the harsh winter.